It is 8:07 on a Wednesday morning here on the Michigan Insider on Sports Talk 1050 WTKA. Online at WTKA.com. So, Ira, look, you know how it is when you talk a lot. You know, you kind of put a target on your back, right? Well, you know this by extension, because I talk a lot and you get caught in the crossfire sometimes, right? It happens. It happens, Mr. Weintraub. That's why you're my guy, because you stand beside me despite that. But, Ira, it's been bad over the past couple of days because it got more people taking shots. We got our softball academy, our softball academy team ready to take the field again a week from tomorrow to avenge last year's loss. Now, I took time out to get this team together, get it committed, get it locked down. I had verbal commitments last year. I needed to get firm NLIs. I needed to get them signed.
Yeah, well, Sam, I told you I had put pressure on my recruiting coordinator, because if not, I was sending you the way of Iowa's recruiting coordinator. You were going to have to open a fast food restaurant.
And so I got to work, Ira. And, the first thing you got to do when you're assembling your team is you have to assess your needs. What do you need? And I knew, Ira, because I talk a lot, and because there were going to be a lot of people chirping at us. I mean, we even had Hutch call me out yesterday. She said, hey, you're dragging your feet. I said, no, I'm just making an entrance. And you know what, Ira, though? But there were other people co-signing. Kim Barnes of Rico jumped in and co-signed that tweet. Our coach last year, Brandy Virgil, jumped in and co-signed it. I said, you know what? I can't handle all of the talk alone. I need a guy who can definitely not only compliment me as a trash talker, but I need a guy who maybe can surpass me as a trash talker. And who better than our next guest with Rays of Light? And as we release our roster, want to introduce Ira. He's an outfielder. He can play the infield. Hell, he can pitch too.
Sam, I'm plugging him in at the 4-hole right now.
Talking about Marcus Ray, Rays of Light. Marcus, how you doing this morning, man?
Man, I'm doing well. Good morning, Stan. Good morning, Ira. If you want trash talk, will you come to the right place, then, Stan?
He's our cleanup hitter for a reason.
Man, Marcus, we're catching it from Laura Hoke. We're catching it from Kim Barnes and Rico. I mean, we're catching it from all angles, man. You got to be ready.
Yeah, it sounds like there's been a lot of popping off going on, and I'm a pop-off artist, and I may have a secret weapon coming, too. So you can count me in this year.
Wait. We may have a secret roster weapon. Is that what you're saying?
We may have a secret roster weapon. Played a little baseball in high school, former Michigan player, and supposedly, according to Lloyd Carr, this guy talked more trash than me. So I don't know how that's
I'll believe
possible.
that when I see it.
Yeah, buddy.
You.
Well, let me let you know, Marcus, just to let you know that you aren't alone, because I said, hey, I know if nothing else, Marcus, and you can attest to this because you played with a guy from Flint. If you need someone to have your back, all you do is you ask a guy from Flint, and they will be there for you, ride or die. So you know what I did? I said, well, who better than a guy who's played baseball at a professional level, who can talk his share of smack as well, and to top it all off, from Flint, Michigan, Ricky the Peach Leach is on the squad, Marcus. He's on the squad.
Hey, Ricky Leach, baby, Ricky Leach. That's how Ricky, every time you see him, he say, hey, what's up, big play, Marcus Braves. That's Ricky Leach. That's my guy right there. I'm glad Ricky's playing.
Yeah, he's just one of many. We'll talk more about the other members of the team, but I mentioned Rick Leach as a segue, Marcus, as we get into Michigan football. Rick Leach, number 7, quarterback, leader. You were a leader. I found it interesting. We sat down with Brady on Friday, and he was talking about chemistry, and he said the chemistry on this team is really good. Doesn't mean the chemistry last year was bad, but I got to tell the chemistry is really good. He talked about leadership, and he has the leadership council with 4 guys from each class really meeting with him and telling him about the things that are going on. And then he talked about the individual leaders, and the first names out of his mouth, Marcus, were Jake Ryan and Frank Clark, guys on the defense. Now, I want to be clear in talking about Devin Gardner that he didn't say Devin wasn't a leader, Marcus. He didn't say that. But the first names out of his mouth were those other guys. And that kind of spoke to me, especially when you put that with him talking about the competition at that spot, talking about it being heated competition at the quarterback spot, Shane closing the gap. And the question was put to him, hey, if you started the game tomorrow, would it be Devin? He said, it might. He kind of hedged a little bit. I took that as him challenging Devin. Am I reading too much into all of that? What do you think?
No, I think offensively, he is challenging Devin. Devin, I think over the last couple of years, ever since he took over the reins at quarterback in the second part of the season in 2012, he really had no one to push him. And I could tell watching him last spring that Devin gets complacent at times when he doesn't have anybody breathing down his neck, or he feels like he has the job regardless if he turns it over, if he makes poor decisions. So I think that now with Shane being right there as the second quarterback or 1A, 1B, and there's no secret coaches play to the future. But Devin Gardner is the quarterback, but he needs the fire turned up on his feet in 2014. And so if things don't work out, Michigan does have depth and options now. So that's where Brady is. And really, no head coach has ever, in this part of the season, ever guaranteed anything to anybody. I can't remember Lloyd or Gary. I can't remember those guys saying, well, hey, Brian Griese's our starter. It was more like Griese was sitting in the chair right now, but it's like musical chairs. And we have Brady and Dreisbach, guys who had got Dreisbach played a lot. Brady hadn't played yet. But Brian Griese always had somebody that we, right on his tail that we could put in. And so that elevated his play.
Right. I hear you. I guess I look at it from this standpoint, though. While competition is certainly being hailed as a major part of each position, you obviously, when talking about Jake Ryan or Frank Clark or Brennan Byer, there may be competition there, but we don't talk as much about those guys possibly not being in the starting lineup. Ultimately, I think Devin is the guy. I just disagree with the notion that a lot of people have forwarded that, hey, it'd be a good thing if Shane beat him out. Now, I think Shane is talented. I think Shane is going to be an outstanding quarterback at Michigan. I just think, wow, to have that much experience on your bench, it'd be hard for you to convince me that would be a good thing for Michigan. Ira echoed my sentiment yesterday. I would take that as more Devin losing the job than it being taken from him, in my opinion. That's what that scenario would say to me.
Yeah, I would take that the same way, and I firmly believe that if Devin is not in there, that lessens Michigan's chance to win. Because even though they won 7 games last year, if he's not on the field, then maybe you win 2 or 3. They almost won 3 or 4 with him in there. So I just think he gives you the best chance to win. He has the most experience. Shane has some time. And in the Big Ten, I think every team needs at least 2 quarterbacks. But to speak to your point about leadership, a lot of coaches, if you really think about it, they go to – if their quarterback hasn't won a championship yet, they really don't crown him king as leader.
Gotcha.
So they go to the defensive side of the ball. If you go back to our 97 team, Griese's name really didn't come up as a leader until, let's say, maybe mid-season, Rose Bowl MVP. But Lloyd talks about, Charles and me or Sam, Glenn Steele, Drake Weathers. That's where your leadership came from. And then you had guys on the other side of the ball, the Tumans, the Jansen. We had a lot more upperclassmen, fourth-year guys, if you will. But head coaches like to lean on their defense because once you consider a quarterback who hasn't really won a lot of ball games, and you don't want too much pressure on your quarterback, unless it's Cam Newton or Vince Young or those type of, Jotty football and all of that, Devin is I think, is a tier below that. And he can be as good, but if he hasn't done it yet, Brady Hoke's a smart man, and so he knows which choice words to use because he knows how it fuels his football team.
Yeah, I think it's a psychological thing. Now, I will, and I've conceded this yesterday, I don't dismiss the talk of competition at the position as outright and as patently as I did before. I was, it's just talk. I think there's something more to it than just talk. I think, Shane certainly has closed the cavernous gap that maybe I perceived it to be. I think that is indeed the case. But at the same time, Marcus, I go back to what I said before. I think this is more a challenge than anything else to bring more out of him. And I can recall, man, it seems like, coaches, and you had this experience, coaches have ways of pushing buttons, even if it's kind of a subtle thing, even if it's not overt when they're pushing buttons. And that, it seems like you had experiences like that.
Yeah. I've had plenty of experiences like that. Lloyd Carter, he would walk in the room and flat out say, hey, this guy on the other team is going to be the best football player on the field come Saturday on both teams. I honestly believe that. There's nothing we can do to stop it. So hopefully if he gets injured, then, maybe we have a chance to win. He would say things like that. One time there was a guy came out of high school with me. He went to Minnesota. We graduated the same year of high school from the same school. And Lloyd walked in and said, hey, after watching the tape, I think we got the wrong guy. I really do. This Keith Demi out of Minnesota, he's a better football player than the guy we got from Eastmore. And I apologize to you guys and the coaches for signing off on that. And he did the same thing to Charles in the Outback Bowl. We played Deshae Townsend in Alabama. He looked at Charles Woodson and Will Carr in the face, and he said, I think that they're going to have a better number 2 and a better 96 on the field. And it's too bad because we don't pay players, we couldn't get them to come here. and we got stuck with Will Carr and Charles Woodson as a consolation prize. And, chances are they're going to have the better 2 defensive linemen and cornerbacks on the field. That's just my opinion. I mean, so, he does it. Well, he used to do it publicly, like in the scouting report, and then there were times, like in the spring or summer competition, where Gary and Lloyd did it. So I mean, coaches have their way, and that's where Lloyd, he drove us because he was a master motivator. And I think over his tenure as a coach, he picked up different strategies and tactics, and Brady's done the same thing.
Yeah, man, it's interesting to say the least, and coaches are never going to give you, never going to divulge to the public all the inner workings of their team. But sometimes you can read between the lines and figure some things out. One of the things that I've been thinking more and more about, Marcus, and I want you to ponder this during the break because it's something that I think fans have to chew on as well. Think about you can see a lot of guys on the defensive side of the ball that can be. He and Brady's mentioned them, from Frank Clark to Jake Ryan to Blake Countess. You got a lot of guys that are thought of as leaders. Well, you look at the offensive side of the ball. If not Devin, now who's that guy going to be that leads that side of the ball? Ponder that for a second, Marcus. We got to get to a break. Come back on the other side here on the Michigan Insider on Sports Talk 1050 WTKA, the official voice of University of Michigan.